Hey everybody, Fernando Cruz here, and this is my Samsung Galaxy Note 2 review, and it's coming from a lifelong Apple iPhone user, okay? Now, before I start, it's fair to say that I absolutely love Apple. I mean, I could even be considered a quote-unquote Apple fanboy, right? So I'm very biased when it comes to Apple. In fact, I'm creating, recording, and editing this very video on my iMac, okay? But when it comes to the phones, there was something very interesting, very particular with the iPhone, because I'll never forget the marketing for the iPhone, for the original iPhone. I don't know if you remember, but it was like a commercial where the phone popped up and there's this glossy, black thing there. You don't know what it is because you've never seen anything like it. All of a sudden, a hand comes in, touches the screen, and it lights up. Beautiful colors, beautiful icons. It's a phone, but you never ever saw anything like it. So when I purchased it, I got it like maybe a day or two after it launched. I didn't want to wait on those lines, but I did have to drive pretty far to get it. I brought it home, and at the time you had to activate it at home, and AT&T was the only carrier. So you bought it from Apple, you brought it home, and I remember looking at the box, which again, beautiful design, of course, Apple, right? Packaging and their design is just amazing. And I open it up, right, and I touch the button to turn it on, and the thing just lights up. I mean, it was done. I was done. It was over. I was never, ever going to have any other phone other than that. And remember, I was not into the smartphone craze. I never had BlackBerry or anything like that. I just wasn't into it. So this was like my first, quote-unquote smartphone, right? And look, there's no denying, Apple revolutionized the entire market, the entire industry. So, for me, this was it was just beautiful. It was an amazing thing. And so I stuck with them. I stuck with Apple and the iPhone, through the 3G. I changed a bit, and of course, 3G speeds was nothing to sneeze at, but again, it was something, it was beautiful. I loved it, absolutely. Then I got the iPhone 4, of course, and which I loved. It was much faster. The design, I really liked the design a lot. And through the years, it's been, I've bought a couple of iPads, a few Apple TVs. In fact, I just bought an Apple TV about a week or two ago. iPods all over the house. There's broken iPods, there's video iPods, little iPod minis, iPod shuffles. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff. And of course, I absolutely love my iMac, which is funny because I was always a PC user. I only started using Mac here this year, in fact, back in January. And that was thanks to my brother-in-law, Kiki. Thank you very much, Kiki. For getting me to join the world of iMacs, which was kind of interesting because I had the iPhones, the iPads, Apple TVs, all of that stuff. So it only made sense to get an iMac. So I got it, and then about a month after I got my first iMac, I got a second one. So the truth is, I love Apple. This is an Apple home, and my kids, they literally have some serious competition, right? I've got two kids and I've got two iMacs. So if a fire ever broke out in it, I'm just kidding. But seriously, so why the switch all of a sudden, right? Why go? And from the 4, I was gonna get the 5. I was going to get the 5, but instead I got the Note 2. Not only did I completely change platforms, okay, but I also changed the actual software. I went from iOS to Android. I went from an iPhone to an Apple product to a Samsung product, right? And the main thing, I'll tell you right now, right off the bat, the main thing is I always jailbreak my iPhones. That was just something that I always did, and I will continue to do it. And I do not have a single device that is not jailbroken, period. Lots of people get worried and you void your warranty. That's all bull crap. You can literally restore everything back to factory settings, and so there's no problem there. The issue was, though, that on the iPhone 5 there was no jailbreak available, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and again, nothing. Right? There was just no. In fact, even till this day, I don't even think that there is a jailbreak available yet for the iPhone 5 running the latest iOS. So that kind of, threw me off a bit. Another thing that kind of threw me off was It still looked the same. Now I don't mind that. I didn't mind it, when I bought the original iPhone, when I bought the 3G, when I got the 4. But it just stayed the same. And then another thing that kind of bothered me when I had the 3G and then the 3GS came out. I remember thinking like, well, okay, wait a second. Where's the 4, right? And it wasn't the 4, it was the 3GS. Then they did the same thing with the 4, right? They came out with the 4, but then they had the 4S. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. So I was waiting and patiently waiting. I wanted something new. And when they delivered it, I liked it. I mean, my sister, all my family bought one. My brother, my brother-in-law, my sisters, they all bought an iPhone 5, and I loved it. The speed, it was very fluid. The video looked great. Everything was very, very good. However, I couldn't jailbreak it. So that was like a big, big deal breaker for me. And so that kind of made me start looking at the alternatives. And so Android, of course, is the most popular. And so here are some of my thoughts, okay? These are just some of my opinions. Number one, Android. Okay, so the Note 2 is running Android, and it's an open system. Now, I didn't mind iPhones and Apple's closed system, and I still don't mind it, but I do mind it on my mobile device, on my iPhone. I really do. On my iMac, it doesn't bother me, because actually the Mac is way more open really than the iPhone. The iPhone is very, very closed, which that's why I always jailbroke, but I couldn't. Now, what I was afraid of with Android is, I always heard really bad things about Android. It was slow, the battery life was horrible, all of these things. Well, I must be spoiled because I came into the Android world with the new latest Android version, which is called Jelly Bean, okay? And Jelly Bean, it is super fast, extremely stable, and it's just amazing. So I think I came into the Android ecosystem, the Android world, at just the right time. So I'm telling you, if you've not given Android a chance because of what you heard in the past, you really, really need to. You really should. And again, it's an open system, so it allows you to do all sorts of things to it that you normally wouldn't be able to do, like on an iPhone, unless it's jailbroken. And even with a jailbreak, there are still some things that you just can't do. And I'll go over some of those here. The next thing that I loved about it is that there was no need for a computer or like an iTunes type software. Now, from the very beginning, I had a love-hate relationship with iTunes, okay? First, if I wanted to get music onto my phone, it had to go through iTunes, right? And it had to do its conversion, and then it would get on my phone, which is okay, I guess. I didn't mind it. However, I remember when I wanted to just transfer music from my phone. I just wanted to give somebody, some music, or I was at somebody else's house, and realized, wait a second, I can't do it. Because as soon as I would plug in my phone, guess what would happen? iTunes would force you to either wipe the current iTunes that was the current install that you had on the phone, or you couldn't do anything. And I remember thinking like, man, this really sucks, okay? I didn't like that control that iTunes has over your media. I mean, it's your media, right? So I didn't like that. So I love that with Android, there's no need for that. You literally just plug it into your computer and you transfer your files, and that's it. In fact, you don't even have to do that. You can straight download stuff. I mean, I have all of my stuff on different cloud services. I just download right to it. I manage everything right on my phone. No need to manage it on iTunes or anything like that. And if I want to plug it into my computer, I plug it in and it acts as a hard drive. I could just, copy and paste my files in and out. I could download movies right to the phone. I don't have to do this weird conversion. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do when you are not attached to a computer or to iTunes, right? All right, the notification system. Listen, it is way better on Android. And I think, this goes back way, many years when iPhone was really behind on their notification system. And so they actually made lots and lots of improvements. And I loved all the improvements they made. However, those improvements were very small. Now, now when I compare it, when I see the new notification or the Android notification system, man, it is light years ahead of Apple. It truly is. It truly is. Just as an example, Facebook, right? On my iPhone, I would miss, 50% of the notifications, for Facebook. On the Android, on the Note, not a single one. Everything comes through perfectly, and the way it organizes it, the way it manages it, is just, it's a much, much better system. So notifications is a big, big plus. The battery on the Note 2 is beyond amazing. Now, I'm not going to get too much into it because, again, it's a huge battery, so of course it's going to be really good. But just know that the battery is unbelievable. That was another drawback for Android phones before, right? That the batteries were just horrible, and they were. I've got a cousin who had an Android, had the Evo, had all these different Androids, and his battery, I mean, literally, he would have to be plugged in all the time because it sucked. I mean, at the time, Android was just horrible with battery management. Not anymore. The battery management is very, very good. And also, the Note 2 just has an excellent battery, so it's pretty cool. NFC technology. Listen, this is one that, quite frankly, Apple should already have. Okay, NFC technology. That NFC stands for Near Field Communication. With NFC, I could tap on phone, on somebody else's phone that has NFC. I could transfer a file. I could transfer music. I could transfer a playlist. I could transfer an app. I could transfer pictures. I could transfer anything. Now, I know the iPhone has apps where you can transfer stuff. You bump and you do that kind of stuff. But there's specific files and specific things that you can transfer. It's not anything, and then you both have to have the same app. And the thing with NFC is that it's an open source technology, right? So the more it's out there, the more people accept it. In fact, here's another thing you could do with NFC. You can tap to pay, right? We were at McDonald's, and my cousin pulled out his phone and just tapped it on the little credit card machine thing there, and it paid, right? So again, NFC, not sure why Apple hasn't done it. The apps, all right. Traditionally, the iPhone apps have always been better. At least that's what I thought, right? They've been better, more polished. And I was just basing that off of things that people would say. However, what I have found is that every app that I have had on my iPhone that I now have on the Note 2 is cleaner, more polished, has way more options, does more stuff than the iPhone version of it. I'll give you an example. Dropbox. Okay, I have Dropbox on the iPhone. By the way, I still have my iPhone, right? Because I still go back and forth. But anyway, I have Dropbox on the iPhone and I have Dropbox on the Note. Okay, just an example. I can't create a new folder on my Dropbox app inside of my iPhone. You can't. You cannot create a new folder, new shared folder on the iPhone app. Why? I have no idea. I can, though, do it on the Android side, on the Note app. Okay, so there's lots and lots of apps. Now, definitely the App Store is way bigger than the Android marketplace. There's no question. However, I'll tell you, that gap is definitely shrinking a lot, because I think a lot of people are realizing, hey, we better develop for Android a lot. And so I have not yet found a single app that I needed, that I had on my iPhone, that I couldn't find it on the Android marketplace. I haven't found a single one yet. Not a single one. So just keep that in mind. All right? Okay, the next thing that I love about the Note is the motions and the smart motions. I mean, it does really cool things. Like, for example, let's say I'm texting with my sister, or I'm texting with my wife, and I want to just say something, like I figure, okay, I don't want to keep texting. I want to call her. Literally, I just put it up to my ear, put the phone up to my ear, and the phone knows that I want to call that person, and so it'll automatically call. If I'm listening to music, right, or if a call comes in and I don't want to be disturbed, I just take the phone, right, and I put it upside down. In other words, I lay it on its face, and it knows to mute. It just mutes itself, right? That's pretty awesome. So like if you're at work, if you're doing something and it rings, you don't have to go crazy trying to find the mute button or trying to quiet, hit the volume keys or anything like that. You just put it on its face. You just lay it down. Or what if you don't have a table or anything? You know what you do? You put your palm over it. Literally, you just put your palm right over the phone, and it knows that it wants the phone to be muted, right? You want the phone to be muted, and it knows that. What else? There's all these motions, all these different really cool things. Now, here's the thing. I believe the iPhone can do that because it has the technology, right? It has the gyroscopes and all of that, fancy schmancy stuff that's in there that detects motion. Why it doesn't do that kind of stuff, I don't know, but I absolutely love it. The keyboard, listen, I used to love my iPhone keyboard, but you were stuck with what you had. See, on Android, if you don't like the keyboard, you could just go and change it. You go to the marketplace, there's tons and tons of keyboards. Now, I actually found one of the most popular keyboards. It's called SwiftKey, I believe. And let me tell you, it is probably the smartest keyboard I have ever used in terms of touchscreen. It literally, I mean, it's freaky how it knows what I want to type. And so I type way faster on this keyboard than any keyboard I've ever typed on before. Really amazing. But again, you're not stuck with the keyboard, with the standard keyboard. You can change it, and that's something that Apple just never gave you. Another thing about this keyboard on the Note is that it supports up to 3 languages at the same time. Okay, you could pick from, like, I don't know, 100 languages or whatever, 40, 50 languages. But you can pick up to 3 that it will automatically support. Now, on the iPhone, you could do that, right? You could have multiple keyboards. However, if you wanted to switch between the keyboards, like let's say I was going to type to my wife something in Spanish, right? I would have to switch to that keyboard, right? Or if I was texting, my dad or my mom, right, and I wanted to say something in Spanish, and I knew that the keyboard, if it was an English keyboard, it was going to have all these misspellings, right? So I would have to physically switch it. There was a little button right on the keyboard. It wasn't so bad. It wasn't, it's not like I had to go through a ton of things to change it, but I had to switch the keyboard. On the Note, okay, the keyboard knows. Like, I'll start typing the word and it knows if it's Spanish or if it's English, right? Or whatever other languages you may want on your keyboard. So it's amazing. It is, I mean, it's just flat out really great, okay? All right. Next, you can add Google Play accounts. Google Play is basically like the App Store, right? And you don't have to wipe what's on there. See, so for example, let's say my iPhone, I wanted to connect it, I wanted to, go to somebody else's house and, I don't know, download something, or, and it happened to me a couple times where I needed to, like, get something, right? And so I would plug it in, and sure enough, iTunes wouldn't let me, right? Because it's a different phone. And so now it would literally just wipe everything. It would get rid of all my apps and everything, and which sucks, right? Why would it do that? On the Android platform, you could add all the accounts you want. I've got my cousin's account in there because, there was some apps that he had that I wanted. And, literally you just add the account and you go in. It does nothing to your phone. It literally acts as if it's your own account. So you can have multiple accounts in the marketplace and it will not make a difference. I absolutely love that. Another thing that I love is that you get to connect your Google account. So, I use Gmail a lot, and I use a lot of the Google products. Literally, when you're setting up the phone, you put in that Google email address and you put in your password. That's it. All your email, all your contacts, all your calendars, everything is just there. There's no syncing. There's no weird things to do. Nothing. It's all just there. That's really amazing. Okay? Another great thing, you could add storage, right? On an iPhone, listen, you either bought the 16, the 32, or the 64. That was it, right? On the Note 2, you do also have the 16, 32, and 64. However, you could also put a micro SD chip. And with that micro SD, you could add up to an extra 64 gigabytes of storage. Very cheaply as well. So, if you wanted the 16 gig iPhone, the 32 gig iPhone, it was going to cost you an extra $100 and something, right? Just for an extra 16 gigs. Well, you could get a 16 gig micro USB chip for like $10, on Amazon or whatever. So again, adding the storage, that's huge. Being able to open up the back, put an SD card in it. It's priceless. Same thing with the battery, right? You could change the battery. I don't carry around 2 batteries. I don't need it, especially with the Note 2. But still, it's good that it's there, okay? The next thing is it has smart widgets. I absolutely love that. Widgets is a little bit hard to explain unless you actually use it. So I'm not going to get too much into it. But just know this, that all your home screens and every page and every screen you have on the Android, you can customize it, you can change it. And you can't really do that with the iPhone. I mean, you have to be jailbroken though, and then the process of having separate pages, having separate things, there is some tweaking you have to do, and I did it. I did have that functionality on my iPhone, but again, it's not an easy thing to do. You have to do a bunch of stuff. Whereas with Android, it just works. It just happens. There's nothing to get around. And with the widgets, I'm telling you, I absolutely, I used to make fun again of my cousin with all his widgets, but now I absolutely love widgets. It's just quick access to a lot of information, and it's just right there at your fingertips. So it's really awesome. The last thing here that I want to talk about is APKs, ROMs, backups, and restores. Now, APKs, those are applications, those are apps, basically. Okay, they're known as APKs on Android. With iTunes, you have to number one, you have to use the App Store. Okay. Now, if you're jailbroken, you can get your apps from other sources, but to install them was a little bit weird. You had to have some software that would install it on the iPhone. Now, again, it wasn't impossible. You could do it, but there was some tweaking and twisting and turning that you had to do. On Android, literally, my cousin had this other cousin of mine had an app that I wanted. He just emailed me the file, right? I went into my email, clicked on it, and boom, it installs. I mean, that's how easy it is. So that's amazing. The drawback to that, obviously, is that there are viruses, right, for Android. But you put up, you install some kind of antivirus thing, and you're all good. However, from what I understand, it's not as bad. But obviously, if you trust the source, like obviously, it's my cousin sending it to me, so I know it's okay. So I do that. So I wasn't afraid of doing that, but just keep that in mind, that even though it's great that you can do that, it does have its drawbacks too. I'm not gonna say it's all peaches and cream there. ROM stands for read-only memory, and essentially that's like your ROM, your read-only memory. That's like your system. That's like the platform, the build, what it looks like. Well, with Android, you can change that, right? You can literally change the entire framework. You could change the entire look and feel of the phone. You could change the entire system of the phone, literally. And then the backups and restore, I got to tell you, never, ever, ever have I been able to back up and restore so amazingly well than I'm able to on the Android and the Note 2. With the iPhone, you can. There's things you can do to back up and restore, but it never... Not the way Android does it. See, with Android, just the other day, I was changing the ROM. I did a full system wipe after I did a backup, of course, but I did a full system wipe. And then when I restored, everything came back. I'm talking about everything, all of my apps, all of my settings, absolutely every little thing. It backed it up and it restored it just as if nothing had ever happened. So the backup and restore system of the Android is way, way superior, I think, than the iPhone. Now, there is a caveat to that. The backup and restore, I actually use something called Titanium Backup for all of my apps and things like that. So, and it costs about $7. Okay, so. Again, you had to buy that. Whereas with iTunes Backup, right, it's free. It's part of iTunes. But it does not do as good of a job as the Titanium Backup does on Android. So that's something that I just wanted to mention. All right, and just here's some of the features. You get a pop-up browser, pop-up video type thing. So here, as you can see this picture here, I was on a forum that I was reading some stuff here on this forum, and there was a link, and so I used the pop-up browser, and all the pop-up browser is just, it's a pop-up, right? And so you still have your background, you can still do everything you're doing back there, but you still have that little browser which you can move, you can resize, you can do all of that stuff on it. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You can't resize the pop-up browser, but it's there. It's like on top of your main window. So that's awesome for like really quick little things you want to do. Like for example, there would time like on an iPhone, if I wanted to hit on a new link, it would always open a new tab, or it would open a brand new session of Safari or Chrome or whatever I was using, not with the Note, or I think that's an Android thing actually. So not with Android, right? You don't have to do that. You could just do the little pop-up, and it could be any link, it could be anything. What's also cool is that you can use it as a pop-up video, right? So let's say you're watching a video, you could literally make it into a little pop-up window, and the video will keep playing. Like literally, you'll watch your video while you're doing something else. So that is really, really cool. That's a really great feature. It's funny because at first I thought it was kind of like hokey, right? Like, whatever. But once you start using it and you start seeing how convenient it is, man, it's hard to go back. This is pretty awesome. Now, this is only available on the Note. This is only available on the Note, as far as I understand it right now. It's only available on the Note. And it's called multi-window. As you can see, this is one screen. This is a screenshot that I took. One screen, and as you can see, I have two applications open at the same time on the same screen. So I've got my Gmail up at the top. As you can see, I whited out a bunch of stuff there because I didn't want you guys seeing that stuff. But that's all. I've got my Gmail at the top, and then I have my Facebook open there at the bottom. Now, if you look at the little bar where I've got the little up and down arrow pointing at it, that little bar will resize the windows. So I could make the top one bigger if I wanted, or I could make the bottom one bigger if I wanted, or I could just make the keep them half and half, which is pretty cool. And it's cool because, let's say up at the top I have my inbox. If I was gonna go and do and write an email, it has its own little pop-up keyboard, and I'm able to type and still keep my Facebook and still keep whatever I have down down at the second window. It's literally like having two computers, right? Like having two monitors on your computer system. You're working on one thing, and then you have your secondary, which is pretty awesome. And then if you notice, there's some buttons there. You could switch the window, so I could make, in this case, I could have made my Facebook be on top and my Gmail be at the bottom, which is pretty cool. That other button, it'll make that particular window the full window. So if I touch the Gmail, I'll get the buttons for that, and I'll be able to make that a full window. So as you can see, it's got tons of awesome features. I love the multi-window, by the way. What else does it have? USB on the go. This is so awesome. You plug this into the to your port, and that's another thing, right? To charge and to do things with the iPhone. With the iPhone, it's all proprietary cables. Whereas on the Samsung, it's just a USB cable, a micro USB cable. So if you lose it, literally just go and buy one for like $2 or $3, and you've got your USB cable, because that is just USB. But here's what's cool about this USB on the go. I could plug that in. I plug that into my my Note, and now I could attach things like flash drives, hard drives, anything that's USB. I could attach to it, and it recognizes it on the Note. In fact, I connected a mouse to it, and it's really cool because a mouse pointer comes up right on the screen, and I literally click and I do everything just like I would on a computer, except it's on my phone, right? So you could attach, like I said, flash drives, which is really cool because I've got a lot of little, USB sticks and flash drives, and when I want to access the data, I just plug it in. You just can't do that on an iPhone, okay? Then, this is amazing, right? That micro USB port that you have there on your Samsung is it can also export full 1080p HD to your HDMI TV, to the HD TV using an HDMI cable. All right, and this little adapter here allows you to do that. By the way, you could pick this up for just less than $20. I mean, it's not expensive. And not only that, but I was reading, it actually outputs 7.1 surround sound. All right. Now, I haven't tested the 7.1 surround sound, so I don't know for sure, but I was reading it, so there's no, I'm pretty sure that that's accurate. Okay. So again, this is just now you can do that with the Apple, right? With the iPhone, using Apple TV, you can do that. However, because it's Apple TV, you have to purchase that equipment, which is about $100, right? With this is just a cable. And what's cool about it is that you can go anywhere with it, right? I mean, theoretically, you can take your Apple TV with you anywhere, but it's obviously a bit bulkier, okay? So I love the option of having a cable. I mean, that's great. I love the Apple TV, by the way, but it's great to have the option of having that cable. And, you know, finally, you could connect all sorts of accessories. I'm always discovering new things that you can connect to this phone. In fact, I just discovered I can connect my PS3 controller, okay, my PS3 controller, right to the phone, right, wirelessly. And I could play my games using the controller. I mean, that is amazing. I don't have to use the virtual keyboard stuff, right? Which is hard for gaming. Now, I'm not a big gamer, but this was huge for me, right? I thought it was like, you know, wow, this is amazing. Connects right to it. And guess what else, too? When you connect the controller, you could actually control the phone itself. You know, you could use this controller to, you know, swipe through your pages, to select applications, to do all sorts of stuff, because it literally becomes the input method for the phone, which, you know, again, that's pretty awesome. But again, this is just an example of how open this system is, all right? So some final thoughts. I know this was a really long video, so I'm just going to get right down to it. A couple things here, just some final thoughts. Number one, Apple's design is amazing. It is flawless, in my opinion. I mean, Apple's iPhone 5 has a dual-core processor. The Note 2 has a quad-core, all right? The iPhone 5 has 1 gig of RAM. The Note 2 has 2 gigs of RAM. So we're talking double the RAM, double the cores, and yet, okay, the iPhone 5 totally matches up with the Note 2 in terms of speed and things like that. Now, when it comes to apps, obviously, applications, in a raw test, you know, the Note 2 blows it, you know, the Note 2 wins, of course, because it's a raw test and, it, you know, you have double the processor and double the memory, of course it's going to win. But in actual usability and actually using the apps, okay, they're pretty neck and neck. Apple wins some, the Note wins some. So again, they're pretty even when it comes to that, and that just goes to Apple's design, which is flawless. It is amazing. So that's one thing that I could tell you that is big. Okay, another thing that I miss about Apple is iMessage. I miss iMessage. That's the one thing that I could say I really miss about not having my iPhone. Okay, next, the Note 2 has a very big screen. Your friends and family will make fun of you. They will crack jokes. That's like a big running joke right now is this phone, because it's big. But I will tell you this, okay? Once you switch to that big screen and you start using it, you just can't go back to normal screens. It's kind of like, you know, if you get a big 60-inch screen, you know, LCD TV in your house, going to even a 40-inch TV just seems small, right? Because you get used to that big screen. And it's the same thing on the phone. When I go to use my iPhone now, it feels like a toy. It feels like, I don't know, it just is weird. It just doesn't feel right to me anymore. So that is huge, I gotta tell you. That is really, really big. And that is one of those things that for me, even though, yes, it does take you a little bit to get used to. And you gotta deal with your friends and family making fun of you. But I promise, the video, the games, the pictures, everything, it just looks way better on that bigger screen. And finally, one last note. The S Pen, which is the stylus. I never in a million years thought I'd ever want to use a stylus. However, the Samsung S Pen is by far the smartest, most usable stylus that I've ever used. And I used to have a Palm, right? I used to the Palm Trio, right? I used to love my stylus, but that's like caveman compared to this stylus. I mean, this stylus, it has pressure points, right? So the more pressure you apply on the screen, the thicker the line, kind of like in you actually using a pen, right? It has a hover feature. you don't even touch the screen. You just hover over it, and a little pointer comes up, and it acts like a mouse. You know how some menus you could hover your mouse over it and it gives you like more options? Same thing with this S Pen. You hover over it and boom, you get more options. You could take screenshots of just little portions of your screen. Like let's say you don't want to take a screenshot of the whole screen. You could use your S Pen to just circle or pick out exactly what you want out of the screen. That's an amazing little feature, right? I mean, there's so many things that the S Pen could do. I'm not going to get into it. You can YouTube some videos on the S Pen, all right? But there you go. That is my review of the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 as it compares to the iPhone. And this is based on me being an iPhone user, me being an Apple lover. I would not go back to iPhone. As it stands, I just would not go back to the iPhone. Android has proven itself to be a great system, very open, very friendly. I can do so many things. I can connect all these accessories. I can do all these different things that I just cannot do on the iPhone. It's just not possible right now. And of course the big screen. I just don't, I can't get used to going back to a normal size screen. It's just, it's just not there. So if you're planning, if you're thinking about getting one, I 100% recommend it. If you're switching from iPhone, I will tell you there will be a few things you miss. Me in particular, I miss iMessage. Like I said, it's something that I enjoy. I like iMessage a lot, and I do miss it, but it's not enough to make me want to go back. And I'll tell you right now, it is a big screen. It may feel weird the first day or two, but once you pass that first day or two, like you just won't be able to pick up any other phone. You just won't, So those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed my review. I know it was a long one, but I promised that I was going to be pretty specific in my thoughts. And I've been using the Note 2 now for about less than 3 weeks. It's been less than 3 weeks. There's still so much in it that I know that I'll be learning and discovering. But for now, I could tell you, I just do not see any other phone in my future, all right? I will talk to you later. Again, thanks so much. If you like the video, just hit like or comment or whatever, all right? Talk to you. Bye.